Okay. I guess we should probably add some public transport now. Look, I think we can all agree, Robert Motors was really not the right man to connect people. The upgrades to Liberty Bridge was definitely taken as a positive. However, everyone does agree, we could have done without the motorway, especially when the public transport within St. Andros is in such bad shape. Jay Bisqueaky, a local resident and train enthusiast, is flat out sick of it. His dream to catch the train from his hometown of Castle Point to his place of work, the Pineapple Factory, on the other side of the city within Harlem. With rail lines already stretching 80% of the way, all it would take is an extension to the network and upgrades to allow for a passenger service. Pair this with upgrades to the old and incomplete subway line, and St. Andros is looking at a complete and well-connected train network. The Squeakyhausen lobbies hard for this, along with fellow train advocates around the country. And by some miracle, well, it gets approved. How does the city pay for it? Don't worry about it. Don't ask questions. Today, we're going to be building these two major networks. This is going to be a pretty exciting project that we've been working towards for quite some time. But just how useful are they going to be? Well, we'll just have to wait and see. Okay, so 2 rail networks today, one of which you can see down here as he crosses Liberty Bridge. This is our subway line, and I've already got a little bit of that already mapped out, but it's very, very disconnected. So we will do a much better job today working on that, and that'll be the most extensive of the 2 lines. But we're not going to start there. First of all, I would like to start with Samara. This is our newer addition to the network within St. Andros, and it's going to be doing something a little bit different to our subway line. We do already have the maintenance shed down here. This is the Samara maintenance shed, as well as the Amtrak. They all follow the same infrastructure, all this heavy rail. I am taking inspiration from, I think this is the Long Island service within New York. You've got a lot of different networks around the city, and this one shares the same infrastructure as all this heavy rail. It's not super extensive, but it does connect people far out of the city into the city. So that's the Samara maintenance shed. He's going to be connected up to our central station, going all the way through this area, past Harlem, into our new city that we're slowly starting to work on. He will cross the bridge around here, connect up to close to the airport, cross the bay, along the bridge. We already have a rail line going down the middle of it. And we've even got a station over here, flashing. It is disconnected, and we'll fix that. Oh boy. I hope it helps with this. And Squeakyhausen will catch the train from Castle Point. He'll go all the way through here, taking the long route around the city, and then into Harlem. Wonderful. And so that's Samara, not a huge amount of stops, but it will be extended upon throughout the series. And then we'll work on the subway, which is going to be way more extensive. And I do plan to build a much better maintenance shed down here, maybe around this point. All down here needs a lot of work. There's a lot of roads, but not much consideration on old infrastructure, like rail lines. And, well, there's going to be a lot of that. Which means I've got to kind of remove a lot of this. I do kind of like this road, so I will just do like a real sloppy connection like that. And I actually kind of like this as well. I don't mind how that sits, so I'm just going to do a bit of this. Now, I was going to go straight through here and cut across the city in a bit of a diagonal fashion. I am taking inspiration from Hell's Gate Bridge, which is just a hell of a name, but I actually really loved this elevated section that just cuts through the grid like this. And I think you can see where I'm taking the inspiration, but I'm going to do something different. What I'm going to do, once again, this is an old bridge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue this elevated section, and I'm going to go all alongside this new highway. New as in 1960. Okay, so hear me out. I reckon that at some point in time, this was maybe a rail yard or a port, or maybe there were some wharves around here, some sort of industry, and definitely more rail lines were around this area. Especially considering how close we are to the city, that would have definitely been the case. But over time, that is being pushed out, and the bridge has been introduced, which is why we have what is like a fairly modern bridge, definitely compared to an older style train bridge. So with that in mind, what I would like to do is I need to make it feel like the train line was here first, and then this interchange was built afterwards. I'm going to use Move It to slightly raise up all of these nodes and make it as gradual as possible. And now that I've changed the path, I don't think that this tunnel makes a lot of sense. This network would have been all the way through here. This would have been all rail line, and it most probably still is. I mean, again, we do need to work on our airport at some stage. So all around here, this is going to be some sort of rail network. And in terms of like the new fresh line that stretches across this bridge and goes all the way over to Pubella, I think that they've established that line not through here. Instead, let's take their network all the way under here. So my headcanon is that all of this network that is threading through here, this is all fairly new. Some sort of major overhaul to the infrastructure and some sort of like major overhaul to get people from suburban sprawl of Pubella to over at St. Andros. Interesting. So rather than it going into a tunnel, it's gone into trench mode. But to be honest, I'm not even mad. I kind of like it. It sort of makes a little bit more sense. A tunnel would be way more expensive than a trench. I'll select the highway, upgrade it to an elevated section. And this train does have to climb pretty high to make the clearance of the bridge. So I am just taking it very gradual as it does try to clear the road underneath. But I'm a little less concerned about this road because what we can do is I'm going to grab 2 sections of road on either side. I'll get Move It and dip him down like so. Then I'll go back and remove these segments. Do a little bit more. And that's a pretty nice and gradual incline up to that bridge. You wouldn't want it any steeper than that. I don't think the train would manage anything steeper. So yeah, I reckon that makes a lot of sense. Now, in terms of a platform, I could go custom, or I might even just go for something like this. Though he is taking up a lot more space than I need. I am interested in it though because it does allow for a subway to be added, but it's probably just a bit too big. So instead, I think I'm going to go for this small overground station, which is much smaller. We can add the details in ourselves. And I always think cars need more room than they really do, so I'm actually going to drop this even further. I know I don't really need to do this, but it just feels a little bit more realistic having a nice gradual ease out of the station, and then it can start climbing up to that bridge. To make the most of this, I do need to add in a ton of parking because this does feel like the sort of station people drive to. Now, in terms of adding parking, I don't think I can access through this street. I mean, this is all part of Patronville, which has absolutely seen better days. Well, at least parts of it. Other parts look a bit nicer, but all down here is just, yeah, I mean, it's pretty sad. And no, I'm not about to make a whole bunch of parking around here because some people still live here, including Steve. And yeah, I can't move him out. unfortunately. He's stubborn. He's lived through the expansion of the airport. I'm not moving him. So I'm going to build some of our parking coming off this street. Oh, and I kind of like that ramp. That's cool. I'll build the big giant parking structure here. But your new neighbor is about to be a whole bunch of surface parking. Yeah, I mean, it's a bit sad looking, but that is exactly what I'm going for. These palm trees probably won't last long. I mean, given the climate of the type of city that we're building in. So yeah, maybe there were once more palm trees and they've potentially just died because yeah, it get pretty cold up here. What else? I have also gone through and added in some sandy decals, as you can imagine, all the sand being blown into the car park itself. And we've also got these amazing Padelmo bushes, which are just adding so much life to this area. Now, this is not a nice beach, because you might be wondering, hey, how come people aren't just like, you know, there's no openings so people can go and have a little swim? No, you don't want to be swimming at this beach. This is not a nice beach. This is the sort of beach you come to if you are, I don't know, maybe doing some plane spotting, which some people are doing over here. But on this side, no. This is mostly for people parking and catching the train. We do have some bike parking attached to this station, but I will add one extra little tiny bit just to encourage some more bikers. Let's do it here. And with that, I reckon that station is pretty much complete. I do need to add some more details around here, but I think we should finish up this train network. Ooh, that was not easy. I think part of the problem is the game wants to create these sunken sections with the retaining walls on either side before it goes into a tunnel, but it's just not that practical. Ooh, I am a bit of a fan of that. Just takes a bit of time and effort, and I think all that is looking pretty good. Obviously, some areas need a bit of fine tuning, and I do have to work on these parts, which I actually think I need another ramp leading onto this highway because there's only one connection on that side, and it doesn't really cater for anyone traveling in this direction. So I'll do that at a later stage because at this very moment, I've got my laser focus on connecting up this line. I really like this little bridge as he stretches across. This is the lift bridge, which I am using him way more than you probably need to be, but I really can't help myself. Let's connect him up and continue our journey so we can connect up to this line. And again, I think I'd like to have the remnants of a rail yard around here. We'll put in a seawall and all that good stuff, but let's press on. So again, this is one of those visual things that I just would really like to achieve, a big windy elevated section that has to navigate this rail yard below, and that's exactly what I'm going for with this. So yeah, it is kind of taking the long route, but there is reason to my madness. He's gonna slowly creep his way down, and I reckon we have enough room to go underneath this highway. Let's aim for that. And I'm now looking at the direction of this train line, and I kind of like it. I like its angle, so I'm going to play with it. I'll change the elevation step to pretty low. And then we'll just slowly creep down to about here. And then we can do another big swooping bend, and I'm going to go all the way down to ground level. And then we have this other little train line just on this side, and I'm going to connect him up like that, and that's it. Now, I know that is an incredibly indirect route to get from Pubella to Central. I mean, we're literally going from over here to here, and we're going all the way around. So yeah, I'm fully aware that is ridiculous. But I just want you to consider that the city and the rest of the region is going to continue to spread out. So I know it would be so much easier just to like chuck a UE and just go this way and just go completely underground and put it in an underground station and all that. But just to like weave it into the idea of the entire city and the story of San Andros, this is kind of the way that I need to plan it all out. In the last episode, we started to develop up this part of the city, and you can see some buildings are starting to pop up, which is great because these are kind of high density, and that's exactly what I want this place to be. I actually want this to be another high density area, and I reckon let's make the most of this new line and build a train station down here. Now, I'm a pretty big fan of the way that this swoops around. That is a nice little arch. So I think I'm going to build a custom train station that doesn't go straight, but kind of contours to that. This is a custom two-way train track with a station in the middle, a platform, and I've done that in Road Builder. And I think I'm just gonna place him down like that. And that's it. That's all I'm gonna do. We'll get back down here a little later in this episode. But for now, I'm just gonna leave it at that. And let's start to connect this thing up and see how useful it is. And I can see our new train down here. He is not the right model. So I'm gonna go to this line. I'm gonna change him to the same model as these ones. This is our Samurai train model. Oh, and look at that. He's popping out at the right maintenance shed. I love that so much. I'm gonna drop down the available vehicles to 2 and change the color to the same color as these ones down here. It might not be pretty, but people are using it, which is great. So this is totally functional. Something else I'm gonna do is I'm going to slow down the speed on these elevated sections because he is flying through, and I don't think he would be. That looks a little bit too quick. So I'm gonna slow him down, even though that's kind of not what we want, is it? We want a nice high-speed rail line, and the Samurai network is a pretty high-speed rail network, but not that fast. Let's have a little look down here. I don't have the highest of hopes for this station because at the moment it's kind of out of the way, and without a good connection to the airport, which is going to be coming at some stage, yeah, I can't imagine... That's pretty slow. Yeah, I can't imagine it being super useful, but I can see some people walking down. Now this is what this network is for. Pubella. Look at all these people wanting to commute over to the city. I don't blame them. This makes a lot of sense. So I'm happy to see people getting on at Castle Point, given that this is one of the only options to get over to the main city. This is great. But let's speed through a little bit of time and see if the ridership does improve over time. So far, so good. I'm pretty happy with the ridership. I mean, the capacity of this thing is pretty large, but I'm pretty happy with it. I think it's working really well. Although I'm not super thrilled about the way people are using this station. I mean, I should be super thrilled because people are walking down this ramp, even though there is no pedestrian access. Yeah, they're walking alongside this highway, and yeah, they're walking to the station. Great. No, it's not. I want them to park here. I didn't just build all this parking for nothing. But yeah, nobody wants to park here, and I guess I know why people aren't. This station is mostly serving people within walking distance, so yeah, it's not a commuter station where people are driving to and then catching the train elsewhere. I know getting people to use parking spaces can be a bit annoying. What am I missing here? But in terms of what I've been up to, I've been adding in some details around our train line, mostly around this section, where I've updated this bridge to be one of the lift bridges, but he works pretty well as a non-lift bridge. Just add a bit of detail. I like that. And I've also added in this beach and a seawall. Yeah, big fan. So I'm going to continue to add more sections like this. I'll probably continue the beach all along this way and probably make it a bit of a, you don't really want to swim here. It's just a bit of sand, and we'll add in some parks and kind of like turn it into a bit of a reclaimed area, which probably wouldn't have been that nice before, but it's now looking a little bit nicer with some tennis courts and some little parks for people to play at. I know quite a few people were saying that the city is lacking some parks, so yeah, here you go. We're going to turn all this into a nice little seaside park, which I reckon will be really nice. But then, in terms of the train line, I have been adding and changing. Adding an extra train line. Yeah, so I have had a bit of an epiphany. I think that I'm going to make this line a little bit more substantial. And I did mention that I do want some sort of heavy rail / freight going towards our airport. Bit of a work in progress. But I reckon that we do need this extra line just so that we can bypass this station, and I think in the future, not in this episode, but I think I might even add in an extra line in this station, maybe turn this into a custom one, and he can go all the way under here and it can connect up to our airport. And I think that will be a nice way to get freight around the city a little bit more, because I think around the airport, we absolutely need to add some sort of freight and cargo and industry around it. So I think that makes a lot of sense. Now, because I've added this third line, it now means that our old bridge doesn't work. Or at least our old new bridge doesn't work, because I can't upgrade this to have an extra line. But our old bridge does work, because he does have a little bit of extra space. I can't upgrade it to have that third line, but I can drag it out and have that train line go over the top of the road. Yeah, it's a little bit wonky, it's not totally perfect, but I actually do think that this bridge is going to be a better fit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this. I will put it on pause because I am absolutely disrupting things. I'm going to drag him over, and that's pretty much in line with where I wanted to go. I'm going to drag these nodes right on top of one another because I do want that to be hidden. So I think getting it to the right height is really important. And that looks about right. And that is just such a great fit. I love this bridge. I feel like it is nice and old and historical, which is exactly what I want. But I'm not a huge fan of these pillars. They're just too fresh, too new, just too plain. I want something a little bit more like this, you know, nice and old. And I've just been trying really hard to find bits and pieces that I can splice in here, but all of them just don't really work. It is just such a shame because it'd be great to be able to get something a little bit more custom going on. And the eyedrop tool is super useful for this because you can just select him and figure out which ones do look similar, which is great. Just an idea, but oh. Okay. I didn't know I could select this. Oh no. We're getting into silly territory again. Oh dear, what am I doing? Please stop $2. This is not what you need to be doing right now. You need to be working on the train line. Oh, well, I guess this is technically the train line. It's just looking a little bit unsupported. I do like certain aspects, but I don't think truss bridges like this should have no supports underneath. I'm gonna try something. I did remove some of these pillars, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this out. I'll select this pillar. I'll go to transform mode and just not that rotation, this rotation. And maybe if I get him to pretty much the same angle as that little part, raise him up. $2, you absolute dirty dog. This is going to be my finest creation. Oh man, I don't care what anyone says. I am keeping this. I am pretty happy with the way this turned out. Not my intention at all. And before any of you are like, oh, here we go, he's made the Sydney Harbour Bridge. No, this is like inspired by the Hell's Gate Bridge. But paired with the rest of the city and the other bridges in the background, I am so happy with this. I didn't even think it was going to be possible, so yeah, stoked. And we're not even done. I mean, imagine when there are a bunch of buildings and all sorts of bits and pieces around here just to fill in the gaps. Man, this is going to look so good. Okay, so my headcanon is in order to build this interchange, they had to remove a section of the viaduct, which would have been this purple one, which would have continued all the way to this ground level section, this embankment. But they had to remove all that in order to build this interchange, when they of course built the bridge, or maybe when they built the highway. Maybe the bridge was here before, but the bridge was just connected up to this road. But then they built the highway. So I guess the time frame would have been the train line, then the bridge, then potentially the highway. And then we can get away with just having this section look a little bit newer than the viaduct. But I'm a fan of the viaduct. I reckon that works really nicely. I also like this little concrete section, kind of marking where that begins. Ties in a bit more with the rest of the architecture of the bridge itself. So yeah, I'm a fan. I do need to work on this void that's down here, but I'm gonna save that for a little later, as well as the other side. We'll do that at the end of the episode. For now, I just grabbed something from PDX Mods that I'm really keen to try out. One of my all-time favorite asset creators, Bad Peanut, has released a train asset that I think, I'm gonna say is perfect for this train line, but I mean, that's debatable because it is an Australian train and I believe it's from Perth. Let's see how this looks. Yep, That is so damn nice. We are absolutely keeping this. And isn't that just a hell of a sight? I'm so happy with this. I mean, not the fact that he's doing unnecessary turns. I'm sure I can fix that up. I'll also adjust the speed because I'd like trains to crawl across this bridge. Maybe they can speed up at the newer sections. But I honestly could be watching this all day long. But I reckon let's leave it there for Samara. We'll come back to it at the end of the episode. Let's start focusing on the subway. So the subway is going to have the biggest effect within the city because it is essentially going to be operating within the highest density areas of St. Andros and slightly out of St. Andros. It'll target Harlem, it'll go over to this place over here, and like I'm thinking about some other connections, but then I also wanted to connect up to some of our hubs so people can get off the subway and connect up to Samara, and also the bus network and even down at our ferry terminals. So it is going to be pretty extensive. We also need to work on the maintenance charts so we can even see trains in the first place. But first, I need to remove the network that we started with. These are the old subway lines and we're going to continue the same journey for them, but I would like to modify them so we're instead not using the actual subway network, but we're going to be using the train network. So in order to make this work, I've got to remove all this. I've already mapped out our subway network and I'll share the map with you at the end of the episode. But I think we should start with the line that we've already started. And that's the only line that we currently have, and it is like the shortest distance. And essentially goes over Liberty Bridge. It goes from here to over here. I'm going to use the double track non-electrified version. This is with the, what's it called? The rail infrastructure mod. I'll switch to tunnel, and there he is here. I'm also starting with this one because it's probably going to be my easiest. I want this portion of it to go all the way to Central Station. So I do think we have enough room to add in another stop along the way. Because I am technically using a train track and not a subway, I do have to use these station tracks, which aren't really underground stations. They're just platforms, so I will have to do a bit of detailing and connecting up when I do want to see people get down here. You know what? I've actually changed my mind. I will stop at Central, but I'm going to go a little bit past Central. I'm going to go this way towards Brighton, and I'm going to build a station here. That's still pretty close to Central, but it's going to target Brighton a little bit more. And I've done that because, once again, I did not plan this, but I think I'm going to go all the way over to Dalton. It's a pretty far distance, but a lot of people did suggest this a few episodes ago. And you know what? I think if we're going to truly solve any of the traffic problems within St. Andros, we should make some exceptions. And then I'm going to turn to this point. Now, this is not in the heart and center of Dalton. Instead, I'm going to build it out towards this way and probably build our station at this point. And the reason why I'm doing this, I'm doing it for two reasons. Number one, I think if we're going to continue to connect up more places around here, it's probably going to go in the direction of where people are living, so around here, rather than where the industrial zones are, which is going to be around here. But then also, I would like to place it here because this is where our light rail is going to go at some point. This is going to take up a lot of this old infrastructure from the train line. But I've also got another plan for this stop. So we have a stop at Dalton, a stop at Brighton, we go to Newbury, then we go, what's this called? I don't even know. I guess Liberty Bridge, we could call it. And then we have another stop over at this place. And this is where the line is going to stop. But in order to see trains on here in the first place, I do need to swoop him around and connect up to our maintenance shed. Let's start fresh. I'm going to just create another little section where this is going to go, just off this main road, which I do plan to keep. I actually quite like this. I think the path of it works pretty well. And I reckon I'm going to start building this shed around here. Yeah, I mean, not perfect, but you can see where I'm going with this. We've got plenty of room for these trains to get in and out of our maintenance yard. I also wanted to add in a lot of sidings, so we can add in a whole bunch of parked trains at some stage. I've got some nice big curves where trains can actually move about this yard. Lots of in and out access points. I know that's not the official term. I'm sure I'm missing a whole bunch of them. This main line is going to connect up to this section here, which goes over Liberty Bridge. But then I also plan to make a bit of a junction and we can go elsewhere up this way. We can't connect to this line, of course, because this is the main line for heavy rail. But then we've also got another line that I do want to connect to. This one is going all the way through along the water's edge of Harlem, and he goes all through here, and we need to connect up. So what I'm thinking is we could actually have an elevated section that goes over the main line and connects up to the train line over here. Purely at this stage, based on aesthetics, I don't know if I'm gonna go up here. I mean, it would make a lot of sense, but I actually kind of like that it chucks a sharp left turn following the same movement as this little stream. I'm gonna have to justify this in the end, but I'm gonna go with it. Something I didn't really think about is the fact that all of this is pretty low marshland. As you can see, there is a little bit of flooding going on. That's pretty unsafe for trains. I am going to grab all the nodes and the buildings, and then I'm just going to raise up ever so slightly. There's some crazy business going on over here, which I'll have to get into, but I'll just have a little look. Doesn't have to be much, just a bit. And just a really simple connection to our station, but nothing set in stone because nothing is set in stone up here. I am still trying to figure out what all this is going to look like. But in terms of what I like all of this. I am going to keep the road layout down here because I like the fact that it does follow this train line, and I like the maintenance shed, of course. And then all the rest is, yeah, kind of up in the air. I'm still trying to figure it all out. So if you do have any ideas, please let me know. Now's a very good time. Over here, I think I'm going to put a elevated station, and then we'll snake around and connect all the way over here to our platform on this side over at Harlem. This might be another good spot for a station. But you know what? Let's connect up the one that we've already started. And then in order to get people down here, because these aren't real subway stations, I do need to make sure I connect them up to the street level for pedestrian access. This one already has that, which is under construction. I mean, it works, but yeah, it's bare bones. And so is this one, which I do still need to work on. We'll see what happens in this episode. I feel like it's already getting kind of out of control. But for this one down here, I'm already pretty happy with where it sits, and I don't really plan to do too much detail. So I'm going to, rather than drag down a pedestrian pathway, I'm going to try and use something a little bit different. I've got these spiral underpass stairwells, and hopefully this is enough to get people down to the subway. Would you look at that? I've actually got a little pathway down here that I can connect up, and then I can see him connecting to our subway down below. So let's just see if that's going to be enough. I'm going to call this Subway 1 for now. I would love some name suggestions for all these lines that I'm going to create. And while we're on that topic, please give me some feedback, because this is not going to be a complete picture or a totally finished project. The way that I'm going to end up this episode is still quite open-ended. We'll get to that when we get to it, but yeah, please do let me know if you have any ideas. It definitely needs a little bit of fixing up, but it is great to see people using our stairway down here. It's actually pretty packed, so we're going to probably have to increase the amount of trains on this network. Yep, I just saw another person go down there. Wonderful. So people are making their journey down. This one works pretty well. If I go over to Dalton and have a look at our station, which in a similar manner, not looking too crash hot, we definitely need to add some detail down here. A few people using it. Let's fly through a little bit of time and see what the ridership is going to be like. Pretty packed, which is great to see. Though only 27% usage. We'll have a look at this number in a little while. It's great to see Samurai getting so much usage. We might need to increase the amount of trains on it. We've got lots more subway networks left to connect up. I'm gonna fly through the rest of it. A lot of it is going to be underground, but then other sections are going to take up areas where we've had networks before. And after, let's have a look and see just how many people are actually using it. And of course, do a little bit of fine tuning. Alright, it's been about 4 or so hours, and I think that this is a pretty good stopping point for these networks, at least for the time being, as I get ideas from you guys. So please chime in if you have any, and any feedback, because I am no expert. And I am realizing this as I was dragging out these networks and getting an idea of how they look in our realistic setting. So for instance, something that I realized, maybe I'm a little bit late to the party here, but subways usually follow the same layout as the roads. In terms of building the things, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it did mean that I had to adjust a bit of my layout, but once I did that, I think that it connected up the city a whole lot better. It's a little hard to make out, but you can see the subway underneath all these roads. I have tried really hard to continue that same idea throughout the city. The only places where it kind of skews and does its own thing is around these bends, basically trying to connect up each one of these streets. But yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, and now that I've started to do that, I'm absolutely going to continue the same theme throughout the city. But I think that we should start with the very first line. I have just given them random colors at this stage, but yeah, we'll go through and change up the colors a little bit more. But in terms of the green line, this one is the one that goes over the bridge. We are seeing a good amount of ridership. Quite a few people are making the walk down here. Considering there aren't a huge amount of people that live over here, you can imagine that at some stage, yeah, this is going to be pretty large. So I imagine this station is going to get very busy, which is why I also think it's going to be a nice connection between the two train stations, the two lines, which go in kind of different areas. So yeah, I'm a big fan of that. I reckon that's going to work out really well, but we'll have to obviously figure that out later. Like maybe reducing the size of this station because it's a little bit big. But yeah, let's follow this line. We'll go all across the bridge. I do not love that bright green. So yeah, I'll have to make some changes there. But I have changed where the station used to sit. It used to sit right here, but yeah, it wasn't really working out. I mean, neither is this. We still need to clean that up. But I changed where that station was because what I've done is... No, that's not a good way of looking at it. There we go, that's a bit better. I have made it so that these two lines are now connected. You can make the transfer between the two different lines. I can't remember what color this one is, but he goes in a different direction. And I've tried to do that for a bunch of the different subway lines. You can see another one over here too, kind of going in different directions. So giving you new options and different ways to get around the city. And I've also made it so that the entrance into these subways is through this building, which I kind of feel like makes a pretty good subway entrance. Now, just keep in mind that all the paths do need a lot of work, and I hate the fact that they make these tunnels, but then also make these little trenches. It's very painful, but I might be able to get some sort of invisible pathway. I don't know, I might look into that a bit later on, but yeah, I'm pretty happy with that station, and I think it makes a lot of sense dragging out this station for this line so that it meets this one, because I also wanted him to follow the road, of course. Ignore this loop. This is purely so we can get trains on this whole network, because otherwise, yeah, it's not connected to the maintenance shard. Next station is here, and then we go underneath all these roads and go to this one at Brighton. And again, a pretty good little connection between Central and Brighton. I mean, it's not a direct access to it, but it's still fairly close. And then we go underneath the bay and end up over on this side at Dalton. And I did mention that I would like to do a bit more with this because, yeah, it's pretty tragic. But when we get the light rail and other sources of public transport around here, then we can actually really dive into how all this is going to look. And so that's the green line, probably the most complete, if not the completest of complete lines. The only one that might be complete. But the rest of them, I think as we progress down the list, they slowly become less and less ideal. More open for feedback and ideas. And expansion, of course. Let's go to the purple one. The purple line, I think, let's have a look. Yeah, here he is. So purple starts over here, well, wherever you like to start. He does connect up to the other line that goes in this direction. Just another way of getting between two different subway lines. We have a station here, and then something that I didn't really plan to create, but he goes into a trench between the roads like this. And I'm pretty happy with this. I did not plan to build it, but I'm not complaining. The original tunnel was right here, but I needed some extra space to make a bend so that he was able to go underneath this road. So that is why we have done that. I was a little bit worried about the steepness of it, but looking at it now, I think it's totally fine. So we've got this platform. I guess this one would be Newbury Station, and then we go over Central and connect up to this. Now, I think this is okay. I probably need to make some adjustments to the detail work on it, but yeah, for the most part, I reckon it's totally fine. We then go across this whole section, which I definitely need to make some adjustments to. I don't love it. I really wish we could modify or maybe even download some extra networks because, yeah, I mean, I want something old. I want something a little bit fancier. This is just a lot of concrete and pretty uninspired. And then the purple line finishes here, which is not where I had planned to build a station. He is, of course, blocking the view of Drew House, our historical house, which we cannot touch. We have to keep it. But in terms of creating stations within the most densest parts and the most important parts of the city, this is probably one of the most significant ones. It is within the most densest part of the city, and we've also got Drew Museum, and we've also got a university here as well. So quite a lot going on here, and I think a station is definitely worthwhile. Now that line does lead to a dead end, and that is a dead end on purpose because we've got a couple of options, and none of which really need a connection at this point. First of all, we could go to our airport. It is turned off, and it's not where I want it to be at this very moment. So I've left it there. It could go in that direction. Or we could go along here, add another station for whatever we end up building around here. And this could connect up to Samara Station, a bit of a hub for people parking and catching public transport. So two options, and I'm still considering it. But I feel like there's no point dragging something like that out at the moment. We just don't really have the demand for it. And on the other end of the line, he does finish here, but I've left it pointing in this direction because he is most likely going to continue all along here and connect up to whatever this neighborhood is going to be. And that is sort of the theme for a lot of this network. A lot of lines that are left with dead ends, which in the future will be worthwhile to expand. Our next and most busiest subway network is our red line, and I think it's the most busiest because it goes to probably the largest and densest areas of the city. He starts off here with an underground station connecting up to our pink line. It goes all underneath this road. There is another station under here, which is, again, a pretty good spot to get off. We then go underneath our cathedral, and he pokes up into a custom station, which it's fine. It probably needs some billboards and advertising and some other bits of detail, but it's not bad for a little custom guy. Geez, these colors are just all kinds of awful, but yeah, it's purely just so I can show you where these go. I will make all these white, and I'd really love to change the model of these trains. They are just not doing it for me. They're definitely better than what we had, but yeah, I would really love a custom one. So I'm going to keep on scouring and just watching PDX mods with a very keen eye because I think it won't be long until we see something more fitting. He then goes here, and that is it. That is the extent of the pink line. I think Central will always be his ending point. I think that is a nice little journey, but at this point, I think that we take a little tunnel underneath this river and connect over this side. There is a potential connection as well to go to this station or maybe even make another station here, but I'm also trying not to build any stations where people are just not gonna go. And then the yellow line is the saddest of the bunch because there is only 2 stops and one of them is pretty rubbish. I mean, this one is pretty good. You do have to navigate a whole bunch of stairs. Oh wait, that's right. I actually do have an elevator here. So yeah, people can get down pretty easily, but it's not exactly the most convenient of locations. And the other station is all the way over at this industrial zone. So yeah, not the greatest of lines, but I think has the most potential because we could add 1 or 2 stops between those 2 stations, one here and one over there. and I reckon they have the possibility of being pretty busy, especially if there are some sort of opportunity to jump off the train and change lines, like connecting up to our other line that is over here. But then the other thing that I'm thinking about, and I actually don't know what to do about, is this train line actually goes all the way underneath these two bridges and then connects up to the main train line, which actually it probably shouldn't. This is a subway after all, and that subway shouldn't really connect to a heavy rail train line like this. So my question is, where on earth is it going to go? The other idea that I had is that instead of it connecting here, it actually goes right and goes underneath all of this, goes underground. We could have an underground station at Smog Island, but I don't know. Do you usually see stations like this for the subway within such a big industrial area? In terms of where else it goes, I honestly can't figure it out. So if you've got any ideas, please let me know. But yeah, there is plenty of room for expansion, but given the size of St. Andros and how much we've expanded into, I think that this is plenty for now. In terms of Samara, yeah, this one is a little bit more difficult because we don't have a good idea, at least at this very moment, of what all this is going to look like. And this is going to be the extent of that network. So yeah, I'm kind of leaving it for now. It is definitely a roundabout way of getting around the city. And for some reason, I mean, I say some reason, but I understand why, a lot of people are using it. They're using it because they live far out of the city. And that is essentially what this network is going to be for. For people that live out this direction, I reckon that'll be a great train line to catch. And I think connecting up to our subway is going to make a lot of sense. So I don't really want to be dragging out that network at this very moment or building any stations because I still don't know what all of this terrain is going to be like, but I feel like we are getting pretty close. But I do have one idea of where a station could go, but I won't build it just yet because there is not really any need to build it just yet. But there could be one here. I actually think this would be perfect. It's a good distance from the last station. We've already got some parking. The only thing is, there's just not a huge amount around here. I mean, this is going to be all a cemetery, so yeah, not exactly the best stop. I guess you could access this park. I still don't really know what all this is going to look like, but I've got a real itchy foot to get to it. But you can see we've got a lot of that subway already pointing in these directions, so yeah, I want to get to this area. But I think to finish off this episode, let's put a little bit more detail into some of these areas. Alright, I could honestly detail for days, but I need to wrap this up. But man, I'm loving this so much. And I don't want to wrap it up, I just want to keep building, but I will put a pin in it for now because I await your feedback and ideas. I just feel like we're getting to the stage where St. Andros, especially from this angle, is really starting to become a whole lot more complete. But of course, we do still have all of this area that I would like to work on. So this might be the next episode. We can continue to expand our ever-growing network of rail lines and think about where some of those stations are going to go and how we can better connect people around the city. But something I just want to test out is I've just changed the speed limit on, yeah, there we go, he's slowing down. This part, I believe, is 55 kilometers per hour. But then when we get a little bit higher up and start going over that old rickety bridge, yeah, it's subtle, but I think that a nice little crawl over the bridge feels right. Okay, I'm gonna finish it here. Guys, thank you all so much for watching today's episode of St. Andros. Thank you in advance for all your ideas and feedback because I'm sure I'm about to get a whole bunch of them. But until then, have a great week. And before I go, a big shout out to my beloved patrons and YouTube members for making videos like this possible. X-That-Kings, Sinister Claire, KVJ Breaker, Equalithing, JH Nars, Big393, Barry Bigfoot, C Caesar Salad, W Tiger TW, and Zach Tibbo. Cheers, legends. Catch you on the next one. See ya.